Sebastian Rich joins us. Sebastian, tell us, how many years have you been working with refugees and international humanitarian agencies?
A few more years than I care to admit to, but something in the region of 35 years. And it's now come to a point where I'm trying to put all these images, or a small fraction of these images together in a way that shows the refugee to be just like you and I. And there's the one thing that war, famine, and massacres can't take away from the remaining family, and that's their dignity. And that's what I've tried to do in this book, Proud, Dignified, Beautiful Refugees. It's 130 odd pictures of, I hope, refugees photographed with dignity and compassion.
A lot of the pictures obviously elicit a lot of emotion. When we see people in difficulty, it might help us to understand a little bit of what they're going through. And yet your book also, and many of your other pictures, because you're also a war photographer, so many of your pictures are of children, and so many of the children are smiling at your lens. Are they much more resilient than the adults?
Well, I don't think children during a conflict, an actual live, battle zone, they're the same as you and I. They're frightened, scared, and bewildered. But in a refugee camp, it's almost as if the rules from school, the rules from parenthood have gone. So unbelievably, children on the whole have a ball in a refugee camp, playing where they want to, what time they want to, and so forth. The one thing that is missing for the children in a refugee camp is proper education, because their education has come to an abrupt halt. So that's the one thing that parents do worry about. And the other thing, of course, is the health and safety of their children inside a refugee camp, which can be pretty harsh at times.
Do you get a chance to speak to the people that you photograph? I presume you may need an interpreter, but you try to make that personal connection. What do people say to you when they're sitting for a photograph with you?
Oh, absolutely. Taking the photograph is the smallest, the tiniest part of my job. The biggest part of my job is to listen, and to listen very hard. Because when a refugee opens up with their story, the story is usually terrifying, and terrifying beyond belief. But they have taken this opportunity to get it out of their system. And sometimes I feel like the ultimate confessor, if you like. And the stories are horrific. I mean, stories that I can't repeat here. But taking the photograph is the smallest part. The biggest part is listening and documenting. If it's for the UN, documenting the atrocities. If it's for a news network, is documenting their stories so their stories get out there, and maybe a politician or someone might do something about it.
Which country, which situation in particular has had the biggest impact on you? What's made the biggest impression?
Well, every war photographer or conflict photographer, humanitarian photographer, has their own particular war. They're all equally disgusting and horrific, but my war, I guess, the one that influenced my whole psychology, if you like, was the war in former Yugoslavia. I was based in Bosnia for the duration of hostilities, and I became involved on an emotional level by trying to save the life of a young girl, which failed miserably. And I lost a lot of friends in that particular conflict. And it was the most brutal conflict. And it was shameful as a European, because Sarajevo was only 2.5 hours flying time from the UK. And basically Europe, NATO didn't do anything for 4 years. So yeah, that was my war, the war that will, the imagery that I shot in Sarajevo and in Bosnia will stay with me until I die.
Sebastian's book is called Proud, Dignified, Beautiful Refugee. Sebastian, thank you so much indeed for sharing your photographs with us. Sebastian Rich, British photojournalist.